Hello and welcome back. The year is 2020 and this is Matt's Forward Politics. Again, thank you guys for joining me today. First, I want to give you guys a small little update about my channel. So as you guys know, my content has slowed down a little bit. I am learning some new techniques. To be honest, I've never really been into editing too much, so I'm actually learning how to edit and put all my films together. And it's kind of a process. So I've been taking some time off a little bit to hone in my editing skills and get them better. There's a lot of content and a lot of creative ideas that I want to get out there. So be looking forward to that this year, guys. My content, I plan on releasing at least 3 videos a week, on average up to 5 videos. So we'll see how that goes. I'll try to be as consistent as possible. In the next month or two, I'll probably have a set schedule. Like I'll be releasing videos on Monday, Tuesdays, and maybe Fridays. And you'll have maybe the occasional weekend video. This will be how I'm going to operate until I get to a place where I can actually financially afford to keep doing this more regularly. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. If you really are interested in seeing more of my content, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell icon right there after you subscribe, because without the bell icon, you won't get notified of the content I release. You'll just be subscribed to my channel, and YouTube doesn't really put much weight on subscriptions anymore as they used to. So please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you. All right, and the topic of today's video is actually going to be Andrew Yang's biggest accomplishment so far. I'll get right to the point. It's actually his battle against the DNC. In my previous video, which if you haven't seen yet, I'll put it right up here, I had spoken about how Andrew Yang's biggest misstep was his battle against MSNBC, specifically him going back on the network after he boycotted them. I'm starting to think this is actually a planned move, and he realizes the consequences of this. I would imagine he does, because every move he's made so far is very calculated in this whole election cycle. I think Andrew Yang realized his enemy isn't really the media, it's actually the DNC. And until he passes the DNC and becomes the nominee for the Democratic primaries, he realizes that his actual enemy right now is the DNC. And because of this, he switched his focus over from MSNBC, which is just one news organization, to the DNC, who is actually controlling the whole process. And through all my videos, this is actually what I've been suggesting that he do, is boycott the DNC. I think we've already hit this point where you can start seeing why it might be a good idea to actually boycott the DNC. Now, at first, when I suggested that he boycott the DNC, I'm sure this sounded like a very risky thing that he would do, and that if he were to boycott and make too many enemies out of the Democratic Party, that this would actually hinder his chances at winning. But this all dates back to 2015 and 2016. I want to point this out. Andrew Yang has done what Bernie Sanders never did and will never do. He is calling out the DNC on their garbage and their BS. He is actually fighting for the people and their hard-earned spendings. Yang is actually the first person to acknowledge that the DNC is silencing the voices of his contributors. As he announced, he actually hit past 400,000. I actually think he hit almost 500,000 total contributors. He beat out Amy Klobuchar by a pretty large margin. I think he beat out Amy Klobuchar on funding by about $5 million, and this puts him solidly in 5th place. However, the 5 people on stage is not Andrew Yang. It's actually Amy Klobuchar instead of Yang, which makes 0 sense. So we get this. The polling seems to be rigged. The threshold of polling seems to be the way the DNC puts their finger on the scale and tries to manipulate the votes to count in their favor of whoever candidate they want to choose from. Because of this, Andrew Yang has finally started calling out the polling. And again, I think he's personally being too nice about this. The polling is rigged in a lot of ways. And actually, if you've been paying attention to other YouTubers, you would notice that the Rasmussen Twitter account kind of recently exploded, calling out the DNC and their arbitrary selection of certain polls and not other polls. And it just so happened, I actually pointed this out in another video, actually. The DNC, the pollsters they choose from all come from like the same third-party source. Like they all are using Survey Sampling International or Dynata, which is the same company. I've actually explained that in one of my previous videos. So if you haven't seen that, I'll link it right up here. Between the DNC selectively choosing which polls are qualifying polls and which are not, and the fact that no polls have even been released in the last few weeks, it's starting to look like the DNC intentionally set this up to bring it down to their final 5 candidates, which I think the most obvious giveaway is the fact that Amy Klobuchar made the debates. and yet her funding is nowhere near where Andrew Yang's is. That doesn't add up. The more you look at it, the funding numbers versus the polling doesn't add up. Those numbers are inconsistent. This is almost as inconsistent as some of the debates we have about our universe. It's like, oh, we use this method and it shows the temperature of the universe right here at this constant, but we use this other method and it shows it's 10% off of the constant. Anyway, the point is, this is really starting to look like something is just not right. Something's wrong. Something is rigged here. What's the deal with this? Well, locally, we don't have to worry about Andrew Yang being another Bernie Sanders. And Yang has already proven that to us, actually. So Yang has already done this by calling out the DNC and explaining that the DNC is shutting out the voices of people that are paying their hard-earned money to a campaign, and they're not letting this campaign get their voice out the way they should. This is clearly a big issue, and I'm really happy that Yang is actually calling it out, because when the time comes, when voting starts, if any kind of corruption happens, he won't do what Bernie did, which is say nothing about it. I mean, it was all over. People were complaining left and right and were asking Bernie for help, and he never came to their aid. I think this actually made a lot of people kind of wary of the whole system, of the politicians, of the candidates running, of each candidate's authenticity. Bernie kind of killed it for a lot of people. See, and a lot of people want to point at Debbie Wasserman Schultz as the culprit behind the whole 2016 debacle. But the truth is, it was actually Hillary Clinton and it was Bernie Sanders. When you consider that Bernie Sanders never came out and called out anything that was happening, he just stayed silent and gave away his delegates to Hillary. I've pointed this out many times in my videos already. So if you're interested in that, you can check out one of my Bernie videos right here explaining why he's not the best candidate in 2020. Now that Andrew Yang is, in a sense, kind of at war with the DNC, what does this mean for him? Well, the first thing it means is the media, and I think Andrew Yang might actually realize this, that the media is going to give him more coverage when he's battling the DNC and not the media. See, if he plays nice with the media, then the media really doesn't have anything to attack him on. And this would normally mean that the media wouldn't cover Yang in the first place. If they have nothing to attack Yang on, then why would they even cover him? And I think Yang realized this, that he's not going to be covered unless it's going to generate some kind of hype or some kind of ratings boost. On top of this, he'll be the candidate that's calling out the corruption. And to you Bernie supporters, I want to ask you this question. Why is Bernie Sanders not coming out and calling out what's happening with Andrew Yang? My serious question to Bernie is, why is he not calling out the polling corruption that's happening right now? The polling thresholds were released, and since they were released, no new polls have come out virtually anywhere. And even going beyond that, a poll in the early states hasn't even come out since, I believe, before the November debates. So there's something fishy going on here. And I think it's even stranger that you have someone like Bernie Sanders that is not stepping into this fight and is not saying anything about it. He's actually staying quiet about it. In fact, even Cory Booker came out and called out this corruption. Something that you would think someone like Bernie Sanders, who claims to be fighting for the people and the voices of the many and not just the few, you would think that he, even though he's qualified, that he would call out the DNC and the corruption, but he's not. I want you guys to really pay attention to the fact that Bernie Sanders is not calling out the DNC corruption. He didn't do it in 2016 either. He's not doing it in 2020. There's obvious corruption going on. Even the mainstream media is talking about the corruption going on. So guys, why is Bernie not saying anything? Really, I want you guys to put your math hats on. Sorry, I'm too poor. I don't have a math hat. But if I did, I would have my math hat on right now. And I would be thinking a little harder, and that harder train of thought would lead to me realizing that Bernie is not calling out corruption for the DNC. And the only logical explanation is because he's actually a part of the establishment and he's working for them. I wouldn't doubt that he's actually been instructed to not say anything. The same goes with Elizabeth Warren. The same goes with Joe Biden. And honestly, I think out of all the candidates to actually speak out about this issue, Joe Biden would probably be the one to speak out about it. At this point, Joe Biden has the most to gain and the least to lose. He's an old guy. And Bernie Sanders, I don't know. Bernie Sanders, he really upsets me because he's definitely the most disingenuous person on this trail. And it's kind of unfortunate people don't realize this. This is just a quick video. I just want to make this point that Yang switches focus from the media, specifically MSNBC, to the DNC. And I think he made this transition on purpose, and it was very calculated the more I think about it. And the reason why I say that is because if he had MSNBC, which is one of the biggest media sources out there, and the DNC, both against him, this would actually cause a lot of harm to his campaign over the long run, I think, versus having just his focus on one of them and not the other. Unfortunately, the MSNBC blackout does continue to happen. I know that some of you guys realize that MSNBC is giving a little more time to Yang, but they're really not. They're really still not considering him as a candidate. They're just mentioning him, if anything, just because they're obligated to at this point. Anyway, these are my thoughts on this. If Yang keeps up this course, attacking the DNC, there will be one of two main outcomes if he doesn't give in. Outcome number one, he gets his demands. He gets new polling to come out, and the end result is he qualifies for the January debate. The second outcome is the DNC continues to push back against Yang, which will continuously anger the people that are actually voting for Yang, and this will escalate the situation to make Yang's voice louder. In all honesty, this is a win-win for Yang, and I'm sure that Yang himself realizes that this is a win-win for him. I'm going to end this video here. I have a lot of really interesting content coming up in the near future, so if you guys want to be entertained and if you guys want to see what kind of stuff I'm going to be creating for Yang in the future, I'm going to be answering some questions from my past videos pretty soon. The reason why I haven't released this video yet is because I'm actually putting a lot of production into it, and I'm going to be doing some, at least I feel like, creative things with it. So again, stay tuned. The video pace will pick up soon, so be looking forward to that. My 1 to 2 videos per week that I'm currently producing is going to increase to 2 to 3 to 4 videos per week. So be looking forward to that, guys. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later, and don't forget, humanity first, guys.